Hi everyone, Pocono Prepper here, and I'd like to introduce you to a new member of our family. This is a pellet stove. Now I started several months ago checking into wood burner stoves. I had noticed that a lot of people on YouTube were installing wood burning stoves, and they talked about how great it is to be able to cook on them, plus having an alternative heat source. And I had been actually interested for a while in having an alternative heat source, but wasn't sure where I would put it. Well, to make a long story short, my husband did not want a wood burning stove. He did not want the work of stacking the wood, buying the wood, cutting trees down, splitting the wood. He didn't want the mess of the ashes, and he didn't want to have to tend the fire. But he did not come directly out and say that. Well, there's a stove store not far from our home, and I had their installation guy come to our home just to see where we could put a wood-burning stove if we had one. Because, as I've said several times before, our home is really small and there really isn't a wall to put a stove at. So when they came, it turns out this is the only wall where we could put anything that goes direct to outside. There's a window on one side, a sliding door on the other. Between the stove and my oven, there's 3 feet. Between the stove and my counter, there's only 30 inches. And the way it was explained to me was a wood-burning stove would be impossible in such a tight space. He said that if I got a wood stove small enough to fit in this space, it wouldn't have a long enough burn time, and we would be feeding it roughly every 3 hours. And if I brought that into the house and my husband had to feed it every 3 hours when it was something that he did not want, he would have killed me. So a pellet stove is the way that we had to go, and this is really the smallest pellet stove that they make. They do make prettier ones, but they're much higher BTUs, and the guy said it would heat us out of house and home if we got a bigger one. So anyway, I'm thrilled to say that we now have a pellet stove. We have an alternative heat source, so should anything happen, we can at least have heat in the house. And since our home is hot water baseboard oil heat, if oil prices go sky high, we're set. Now, what I wanted to actually get to in this video was the fact that if you have a spouse who is not on board with prepping, and you really want to be able to do some sort of prepping, then looking around your home and deciding what improvements you can make may be a way to go. And for us, it was an additional step or an additional compromise, because we had to agree on something that he didn't want to get something that I wanted. So my thought is, don't do anything for the sake of prepping that will alienate your spouse. Please think of their needs and their wants. Please remember that together as two, you are stronger than anything and you won't be defeated. But if you separate, you'll fall. And you need to have each other during those difficult times, because it's the strength of the family that will see you through the difficult times. If you check back on the Great Depression and you hear stories of the Great Depression, those that survived and had the best time, if you will, through the Depression were the ones that had the strongest family. They played together, they worked together, they loved together, and they survived together. So remember, when you're thinking of prepping, think of your spouse, think of your family, and compromise is not necessarily a bad thing. So as always, I hope you have a great day.